Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Easthampton City Council Rules and Government Relations Committee meeting. It is October 7th at 6 p.m. The full committee is present. We're meeting remotely because of the very, very long pandemic. And Governor Baker said that's okay. And it's still okay. And we're probably going to be doing that for the foreseeable future. Okay, so minutes. We have minutes from the last meeting, correct? I think so. You sent them right after the meeting.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And that was I don't even remember what that meeting was. Sorry, I just got home from work. Okay, that was the September 20th. So I will, since there's only two of us here, I will make a motion to approve the minutes of September 20th.
Second.
All right, a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Cool. All right. So I think the only thing on our agenda tonight is redistricting. I'll say this in advance. I think redistricting is really interesting. It's something that I'm very interested in. I am sort of bummed that this process is going to have to be a little bit rushed, but it's nobody here's fault that that happened. So it just sort of is what it is. With that being said, Barb, would you like to sort of just walk us through what has changed from last time?
Sure. Okay. So there's basically 4 areas that have changed. First of all, I do have to say that I think I've made it pretty clear to everybody that I was really glad to see this map because it was much better than the earlier versions that I was seeing. And that's mostly because Easthampton didn't end up losing the population that they were kind of anticipating, which is a very good thing because it's just good overall. So I want to explain that how it works, and I know Tom knows this, that all the precincts in town have to stay within 5% of each other, and they can't go over 4,000 residents. Now that doesn't mean 4,000 voters, it means 4,000 residents. And some of our precincts gained and some of them lost. So in order to make the precincts within the 5%, that's why every 10 years, the state, after the federal census, we have to look at where the population is and the lines move around a little bit. Right now, looking at our figures, the target population, I got my map thing right here. The target population that they were looking at was 3,242, with the max being 3,400. The biggest precincts based on this map right now are precincts 2 and precincts 4. So saying that, the first change is right here in this area. Basically right now the line comes along Lovefield Street and it goes up to well, let's see. So look in your head right there. The line is going to follow the river. Follow the river. That's the new proposed. The map last time had the line going down Lovefield Street. Right now, this map is going to propose it being right there. Oh no, go away. Okay.
Whatever's
So,
popping up, we can't see. Just
okay, it's like this thing on the top that blocks my thing. So before, where we were using, they were using a street as the divider line. It's now using natural features, meaning a little stream and the, what is this river? The Manhan River. Fort Hill Road. There's no houses right along here. So basically, it's this big chunk Joe and Stan are now moving from precinct 2 into precinct 1. So
Look out, JP.
yeah. So that's the difference. That's difference number 1. This big chunk moves from precinct 2 to precinct 1. Okay, the next change, which was very minor, and I really had to look for it, is right here. Okay, right now, the precinct dividing line is Briggs Street. Okay, Briggs Street is half in precinct 3 and half in precinct 2. The way this map knew, it just moves this line up and the dividing line becomes Nipfer Ave. That's it. It's a little bit more of precinct 3 because precinct 2 is one of the larger precincts. So that's why it's losing some people. So that's the second, and it's really, I almost missed it. It was so tiny. The third change is right in this area. Right here. I'm gonna kind of take a look. As you can see right here, the line follows the edge of the brook, that runs Rubber Thread Pond and the Williston Pond, and then it goes over and it uses Brewster Ave right at the edge of the main Williston campus as the dividing line. I'm going to go to this current year. So this little chunk right here is now precinct 2. Okay, last time, let's see, the dividing line was Payson Avenue. So what it does is it now follows it follows more of a natural feature rather than dividing a street in half, which I prefer it personally when they can use natural features over streets, because when you use a street, it means one side of the street is one precinct and the other side is the other. And I think it's much better to use a natural feature if it's possible. And stop it.
Perhaps, Barb, you don't have to go back to the old one. We're trusting your
Okay.
knowledge.
Well, I'm trying to get back. There's a thing that popped there. Okay, I think I got it. There. Whew. Okay. So you see what I mean?
Leave this map up.
Okay, so right now, so you can see right now the line is right here. So this little chunk, but it also includes, so this whole area, so basically the whole Williston campus, the main campus is now in precinct 2. Okay, and the last change is down in Dan's precinct, where right now the dividing line is Holly Circle. This first part of Holly Circle is right now, this is precinct 5 and this is precinct 4. So the dividing line will now move up to Button Road. So it'll be half of Button Road and these houses on this side of Park Street and this side of Holly Circle. This little section will move from precinct 4, which is a larger precinct, down to precinct 5 because precinct 5 lost people. So those are the changes. Those are the only changes. And like I say, I really like a couple of the changes that from last time because it's using this natural feature, and up here, this natural feature over using a street. Like back at the last time, I think the West Street division came about, and I didn't like that at all, but what could you do? So
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
First is, these precinct maps go into effect for the next election, correct?
They do. Yeah.
Not this election.
No, they won't go into effect until December 31st.
And
they'll
then
be good for
everybody
10.
who's been moved will get notified they're no longer in the precinct they were.
Yes, they will all be, everybody who's affected by a precinct change will be getting something in the mail telling them what their new precinct is.
And lastly, we just have to approve this. If we didn't approve it, what would that mean?
Well,
I didn't think we had a choice.
Well, I mean, if you saw something on here that you really didn't like, then what I have to do is I have to get back to the state and say, they don't like this. Can we change this? And then they would have to make the change and get the map back to me. And then I'd have to say, okay, we like this now, we need the final map, because if we think this is okay, then my next step is to tell the state, we think this is okay, send me the final map and the legal description, because there's a word description that that also needs to accompany this. And they're going to make most of it up, but there's little things that I'm going to need to go through and make sure, that everything is correct. Like basically northerly on Main Street to the intersection of Pleasant Streets, westerly, like that.
Like a deed.
Yeah. So that is part of the process that will come with the final maps.
Well, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, so let me, I know I've said this timeline out, but they're requiring that we all do this by October 30th, saying that, as Tom said, this was a very tight process because the census numbers came out late. And I mean, literally the day that I finally got it, which was September 20th, I think, I got it to the council like immediately, but I mean, it wasn't really the state's fault either, because the numbers came out so late. And also at the same time that we're doing this, the Senate and Rep in Boston, they're looking at the district lines, and the sooner the precinct lines can be determined, the better, because I don't think we're going to be affected, but there's some communities that actually, they may split precincts. And if the precinct lines are drawn first, then it's likely that the state will follow precinct lines. So they really want everybody in by the end of October. And then there's a review that they have to do. It has to be approved so we can all be set by the end of December. And I agree, it's very short, but I don't know. There's not much to be done about it.
Right.
Okay.
Councilor Kwasinski, I see your hand.
Thank you. And excuse me if this has been mentioned before, I apologize. Do we know the numbers that we were working with and what changes in numbers we were looking to make, or somebody was looking to make? Is that public record somewhere?
I'm not sure I understand what
Precinct 1 has, for example,
Oh, you said 3,400 was the number.
34, 32, 42, and we need to get up to 3,400, or we need to take away here or add there. And
Well,
that's
yeah.
question number one. And question number two is, who then did this? The state is an amorphous, the state did it. The Secretary of State's office, was it a subcommittee? Was it the legislature?
Yeah.
Who actually did this?
It's a division, it's the Census Division, which works out of the Secretary of State's office. And this is, I believe, the third time that we've used their technical services before.
And they get a lot of support from my office.
Right. They do too, I'm sure. Yep. But what it all breaks down to is census blocks and the number of people that live in each census block. So, you can't just like draw a line. You need to know what the data is behind the lines. I have the, well, here, whoops.
Yep, that's it.
There's the breakdown that this current map is showing you.
Where's, Barb, do you have, if we didn't redo the districts, what the census was in each existing current district?
I don't have that information.
Okay, so they didn't have the census for the way we are configured today.
I'm sure that they do, but
Yeah.
just not here. I mean, I also, there's like, man, I totally have the skills to do this, which is driving me crazy.
Yeah. So they start with our current precincts. I mean, they have our
Yeah.
map
Right.
from the last time.
Right.
And then then what they do is they look at the numbers that they're shooting for, and they, move the lines around.
Yep.
Correct, Tom? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have our, I mean, they did our map the last time, so they have it. That's why it looks very similar to what we have. It's just, they have to tweak it to make the numbers work within, you know, the 5% and no more than 4,000. You know, luckily we don't have an extra precinct because we almost stayed the same, so.
So do we know what the target was that you said?
Well, you can't have any more than 4,000 per precinct.
Right.
And here's the target. The target and the
Target
maximum.
population was 32 foot and the maximum was 3404.
And you can see precinct 4 and precinct 2 are the largest.
Right. This is by the population
This, yeah, from the
with the,
federal.
with the new boundaries or the old boundaries.
This is the new
This is
boundaries.
the new boundaries. Did they give us the information on what with the old boundaries, what the numbers?
I mean, I have the map in my office.
In the
but
office,
I
okay.
don't,
So
yeah.
it's available to the public if they want.
oh, yeah,
You know, this is
Yeah.
what the old map was. These are the old numbers. This
Yeah.
is the new, these are the new numbers. And
What I-
these are the changes.
What I
Okay.
don't know if they have is the 2020 population in the current boundaries. I'm sure they could calculate that. But I
Right.
just haven't seen that figure anywhere.
right.
Well,
I'm just curious about the delta. That's all. Like,
Yeah.
if precinct 1 was 3,500 before and now it's 31, like, that's all I'd be interested in.
Mhm.
But it's also not a big decider for this issue. I mean, we're not a
keeping
we're not a
all
very
three-
large community.
It's keeping everything as close to equal as it
Right.
can.
Right.
And then not making the boundaries crazy, because
Right.
you'd have to do that to make everybody exact the same, so.
Right, right. There, one goal they try to do is they try to make the precincts like make sense, you know, they kind of,
Right.
the shapes. So the shape isn't like weird, have these like weird like fingers or arms or, you know, it doesn't.
Except for precinct
split.
2.
Yeah, it doesn't split, you know, like, you know, important neighborhoods of color, you know, it just, it contiguous boundaries, following as many natural features as possible.
So on that note, can I just say where I have kind of, and let me just say this. I've had a problem with some of these boundaries for a while. My problems with the boundaries, some of them were fixed by this, some of them remain. And I just want to air this out. If I get overruled on doing anything about it, that's fine. So the first one is in my precinct. To start, I think that the northern boundary of my precinct is very confusing. The fact that half of Everett Street is in my precinct and the other half isn't. The whole thing, like, you know, when I meet people who live on Nipfer, for instance, like there's a constant like, well, what side, if you're looking this way, like, are you my constituent, or like, for the question of like, and this beforehand, that was Briggs, right? It was like some of the people who lived on Briggs were my constituents and some weren't. I really think that, you know, I understand that there's a lot that would go into this, but I've always felt like the most appropriate thing would be for everything west of Brickyard Brook and south of Mill Pond to be precinct 3. I think that when you have these things where, yeah, like some of these streets, like, you know, Franklin, okay, 3/4 of Franklin is 3, but one part is 2, but the part that is in 2, you can't really get to the rest of 2 without walking through 3. I just think that's confusing. I've never much cared for that, and I still don't. There's a couple other cases that are like that. There's a part of like in the southern part of my precinct, there's a part of Hendrick Street that I really feel it would make more sense for it to be in 5. I feel like just in terms of like the neighborhood and like the sort of the community, it just feels like precinct 5. It doesn't like precinct 3 is like a predominantly downtown precinct, and there's these sort of that's like a little bit less of a concern, but I just don't like that. That's in terms of like sort of the geographical area, it feels kind of cut off from the rest. I've always thought it was sort of confusing that the area north of Pleasant Street is in precinct 1, but if you're just looking at in terms of just like it's much, I think I really associate that area with like New City and precinct 2 in my head in terms of like the socioeconomics of the area and whatnot. That's always felt to me like that should be precinct 2. I've never been crazy about the way that precinct 2 is sort of like, it's just such a strange shape, but that's not something that we're going to be able to solve today. But I'd say like, if I had to say a single issue that I have, it really is that Everett Street, Davis Street, Adams Street area. I just think is really counterintuitive, and it makes it difficult for people to know where they are. So I don't know if that's something, that there's any chance of getting solved this time around. Precinct 3 remains one of the smaller precincts, and precinct 2 is one of the larger. So the idea of picking a little bit of that up, I don't think would destroy anything, but I just wanted just to air that out there. I've always thought that was confusing and makes it hard for precincts to feel like contiguous areas or neighborhoods. And I continue feeling that way.
The population issue, if we were to make a change, we would have to try and, well, first of all, precinct 2 would have to lose population. And I don't know how much is in that area. I mean, it seems complicated, Tom. It doesn't mean we can't try, but what I don't like is this process seems so rushed. Is December 31st a fixed date that we have to have this done by?
Oh, you have to have it done by October 30th.
But if we send it back with the requested change, what does that mean?
Well, I don't know. I mean, those are really like pretty major changes. I mean, there's a lot of people in those blocks. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could try, but we have to, I don't know how we're going to approve this by October 30th. If you're talking about all these, like, this is pretty, I mean, I could ask, but Monday's a holiday, and I don't know. That's why I was really concerned about this being taken so long.
I
Well,
appreciate
it got
that.
out late, right?
I know, but we've been sitting on it for 2 weeks.
Even so, it got out in September. It should have been out a lot sooner, correct? If the
Well,
census
that's-
data was here earlier?
Blame it on COVID.
Well, okay, but
I mean, I don't want to blame it on anyone. I just have an issue with a process where there's these, kind of major decisions about how, as precinct counselors, which populations, which neighborhoods we're responsible for setting up. And just because of the way that, frankly, I will blame it on someone. I'll blame it on the federal government and Donald Trump, who tried to use the census process to alienate people, caused a bunch of lawsuits and ended up like delaying this entire thing and also mismanaging a pandemic. So that's where we're at. But and it's not your fault, Barb. It's not our fault. It's not the state's fault. But it has led to a situation where this is the one time in 10 years that we get to discuss this. And if we don't just see, if we want to make any change, like if there's even the slightest change, if I even said like, just that would it be okay to if precinct 5 just got the other side of Nipfer Street, like, is that even something like, or would it just be like that anything is like, it's too late to do anything? And if it's too late to do anything, then we shouldn't even have this conversation.
Well, if you had something really specific, I can email them tomorrow morning and see if they can do the maps. I don't know. If you go up to like change it from Nipper up to Davis, then you're going to have to, depending on, maybe population wise, it would be okay, but then you're still splitting Davis Street. you know. So
Right,
you
which is
could-
why I'd prefer to take all of Nipfer, all of Davis, and all of Everett
Yeah,
Up to
And-
the lower Mill Pond?
up to Lower Mill Pond. And if that makes precinct 3 too big, then I'm
Well-
happy to jettison some of that stuff that heads into the plains.
well, you know, another thing you have to think of is if you're gonna do that, you're gonna go all the way down to Adams, you're gonna go all the way down here. I mean, if you're gonna take the line all the way over to here, correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, this is 15 Cottage Street in here, remember that? That's a
Yeah,
lot
and
of-
there's
that's
some
a
people
big-
there for sure.
That's a big chunk of people.
There's also a lot of people on Everett Street. Yeah, I'm not saying that
Yeah,
isn't
I-
a substantial change.
you know, this is the cemetery, so those people don't
Right.
count.
Yeah,
But
they're
there
not-
are houses here, you know, there's a pretty good, so where would you make up that population for precinct 2? Where,
Well, it would have to be sort of a hot potato game, but I would suggest that Terrace View and Pleasant
like,
Green
add,
be in
like,
precinct
move,
2.
like move the line over to here?
And then
And
of
then
course that would
precinct
shrink to
1 needs
precinct 1,
population
so
to
precinct
make
1 would
it
probably have to take something out of precinct 4. I'm
The
not saying,
domino
Wait, can we
effect
just
of-
have one person talking at a time, please? It's hard.
All right.
Go ahead, Tom.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be major changes. I'm just saying this has always been an element of these maps that I thought has been confusing and limiting.
Yeah, I mean, if we could just look at the map and go by like, "Phew, there's a great line, let's do that. And here's a great line, let's do that, but
Well,
Ah.
let me throw this in.
I don't know.
Continue up the Manhan and have precinct 1, Robin Road, Oak Ridge, go to precinct 1. Along the lines you're thinking. If
See, this,
precinct 1, yeah, if you continued that line and had said that's 1, okay,
which it used to be. This
Yep.
used to be this line.
then
Yeah.
you would add Robin, Oak Ridge, and Meadowbrook.
Okay, and then you're affecting precinct 4.
But precinct 4 is huge.
But but there's quite a few home, you know, population of all that side of West Street, all these Meadowbrook, Oak Ridge, you know, all
Right.
those along there. I
Yeah,
mean,
But
that's,
then, yeah,
that's
I
a
mean,
lot.
but that I think is what you'd have to do to accommodate the loss of the off Pleasant Street.
Yeah, so it's a domino effect.
Right, and then what would you adjust with 5? Yeah,
In precinct 5, what would you do down here? Then you'd probably have, they were gonna go up to Taft. But, you know, so I don't know. I mean, if you have some little things you want, but once you start making changes, it affects all of the precincts.
yeah. And I guess I'd just be interested to see if it was possible. I know that it would affect all the precincts. I just think, is it possible? I mean, if it's not possible, if that just cannot be done without totally throwing everything off, then it is what it is. But we don't get another shot at this for 10 years. And so I'm just wondering if there's a way that this could be redrawn to follow I mean, this whole city, I really think about the water boundaries. And I just think it would be if it just hewed a little bit closer to those geographical boundaries and had a few less of these split streets, I think it would be easier for people to understand, you know, where they are. I mean, you know, like, I don't know. I just think like it's like West Street is a major street to have split in 2 while we're at it. Like, that's a really substantial street to have split in 2.
Yeah, it used to be all, like I say, the line used to be the river. And then it at the last census, it became split. It was split.
Yeah.
And, you know, it goes all the way to the line. So it would be like this whole section, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, I can, all I'm gonna have to do, I mean, I'll take the map and I'll say, okay, let's take this big chunk right here and of 2 and see if we could make it into 3. And then let's take this little section of 1 and see if we can add it to 2. And then like take this section of 1 of 4 and make it be 1.
Yeah.
And
And
then what do you do down here?
I'd have to defer to I'm not frankly familiar enough with those neighborhoods to say whether, and barring any like clear geographical boundaries, I have no real opinion about what should be 5 or what should be 4. I think that the part of 3, the southernmost part of 3, like Brook Street, I would be fine with that being 4 or 5,
Brook
Brittany
Street-
Lane even.
Yeah, Brook Street
Yeah.
became the dividing line at the last precinct.
I actually think, isn't that new? Wasn't it
It was the
wasn't that?
last one,
Oh,
10
really?
years ago. Because that was like the only change the last time. Yep.
Yeah. Dan, I see your hand.
Can we do exactly that? It sounds like we've bounced. If you add all that population to 3 up at the top of the map, go back down, Barb, and you take the line from Hendrick Street and Brook Street, and whatever that is a brook there, that's the line now, but include
Brittany.
most of that, most of Hendrick Street. You'd have a little corner there.
Yeah.
But maybe that would balance population, but it really is a matter of density. The density of population up at Everett Street is so high that to get things even, and they're the only ones that know this, right, Barb? We wouldn't know how.
Well,
the
they have all,
population is.
yeah, they have all the data. They can move it around. I mean, these are pretty big moves.
For sure. I'm not
mean,
saying they're not.
I can ask. I just don't know how. I mean, they're probably going to come back and say, they're going to come back with another map. And so then when are we going to get to look at it again?
Whenever they're ready, we'll hold another meeting.
Well, I mean,
If it's next week, we'll hold another meeting next week. I mean, I have no problem with
I
that.
mean, all I'm going to be able to do is just take the map and just circle and just send it to them. And then Monday's a holiday. So I don't know.
I'm happy to also I'm happy to sit down with folks. I can bring in GIS people,
No,
whatever you need.
At this point, I mean, they've got the map, they've got the numbers, and I can ask. I can just, I mean, I see what you mean. And I can just ask.
And if
Now
they
let's-
say no way, that's ridiculous, then it is what it is. But I'd feel bad not asking.
Is there a way you can draw it out so we could be clear what you're suggesting or what
Well,
we're suggesting?
I mean,
Can you write on that?
If this is something you want, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna email this to them tomorrow. So you're just gonna have to go by, okay, so right now here's precinct 2. So I'm gonna say, can we go and follow Lower Mill Pond and go all the way down to Nashwanik Pond? Take that little chunk and add it to 3. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, everybody agreed?
Yes.
Okay, so now precinct 2 is gonna need to gain some. So if we can go up and follow this river, and it's gonna have to go all the way over to here.
Yep.
See if that can be added to precinct 2.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, then over here, I don't know. And to give precinct 1 back, let's see if we can use the Manhan River
Mhm.
and give that back to 1.
Right.
Precinct 4, I mean, maybe this little chunk right here could become 4, or
Yes.
it would,
That's
I
fine
mean,
with
this
me.
could be 5.
Barb, I don't think you need to do anything to 5, just because 4 is losing a lot. You're gonna need most of that down corner, Brook Street and all of Hendrick there on that blue line going, you know what I'm talking about?
Go to 4.
Yeah, I think that's what you have to balance.
But I think you have to take something from 3. That's
Yeah, take it from 3. That's fine.
So-
3's
The
gaining a
pink-
lot.
The pink,
Either take this whole chunk
Yeah,
or
Yeah.
follow this little thing.
the whole chunk.
The
whole chunk
this-
right there.
This whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Follow the
up
river.
to Hoyoke Street. So
Well,
No, don't
Not
go to
quite.
Holyoke Street. That's too
Not
many
quite.
people.
Because that's a big parcel. That's like a single
No.
big parcel, but really you could just follow that brook down.
you follow the brook. And then just follow all of the,
Mhm.
So a small
Yeah.
portion of Hendrick Street would be in 3.
yeah, Hendrick
Yes.
Street has always been split into like 3 precincts. They're used to it.
Oh, it'll be a lot better now. It's only a little corner now that's in 3.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be 4 and 5. What am I saying? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're talking about a lot of people that are gonna be affected by a change. That's another thing, you know, you gotta think, how can you affect the least amount of people? This is gonna be affecting a lot of people. People are
No
gonna
doubt.
be
Yeah.
very confused.
I think
Yeah.
that in the end, they'll be less confused. I mean, I just am saying this, like between precinct 3 and Lower Mill Pond, I have a lot of confusion from people about whether or not they are my constituents. This is like a thing that gets discussed. So that, I mean, you're right that like, I mean, the question is right. If you have already confusing lines,
Mhm.
does it make more sense to make them sensible if in the process of making them sensible, a whole lot of people are going to change precincts, which is confusing in and of itself? I don't have an answer. That's a philosophical question. I don't really have an answer to that. But my feeling is that we should strive towards lines like precincts that are like kind of understandable geographical areas to the extent that is possible. And that's not going to be completely possible because we don't have a bunch of completely understandable geographical areas with equal populations. So, you know, I mean, that just is what it is. But I'd like to just see what they could do if there was an understanding that that was a priority for us.
Yeah, you know, I'm seeing another weird little thing that I don't know if they're gonna go for. Because if you bring your line up here, that
Mhm.
means that the precinct 2 has got this weird thing.
Well, it already
know?
does, though. It's just that the weird thing has a giant pond that you can't get across in the middle of it.
I know,
But there's
but
already like these people are kind of on an island where they can't, like they're already like they're in 2, but they're kind of surrounded by either water or 3. And it wouldn't look so weird because if we actually did bring 2
that-
up,
yeah, if it was able to come up and follow that line.
Yeah.
I guess it wouldn't, guess it wouldn't be that.
I guess the only thing that makes some sense is if you go back to the Lower Mill Pond and I'm sorry, I'm drawing on the map here. If you go back to the Lower Mill Pond, having precinct 2 be all of both sides of the pond and the unifying feature is we are the pond. All the boundaries, everything that's bounded by the pond is in 2. And since you're going to have that weird little appendage from the main section of 2, where the 2 is on the map, down into the Lower Mill Pond, it kind of makes sense to have it be on both sides. There is some logic because now all of 2 has the pond.
Well,
Yeah, I
not
guess-
the
Well,
South Pond
It
stuff.
wouldn't though. This would be,
I think he was talking
Under
about
the new
quo.
map, it would not. It would just be this really small appendage.
Well, we're adding the part at the top, so it won't be as small as it looks. If we add the part above Pleasant Street to
You're right.
compensate.
If you were to turn that to brown from the green, yes, that would look more contiguous.
Well, this is all going to be up to whether the population works within the 5% they're talking about. So if this comes back, here's a wrench in the works. We have a council meeting on the 20th.
Mhm.
Today is the 7th, so we would have to meet next week sometime, maybe the 14th, to decide if you can get a map back from them, Barbara.
yeah, then after, okay, so I try to get this to them, or I probably feel like I should call them and walk through it because I don't know how I'm gonna explain this. So, and then they've got to redo the map and they've got to get it to us. We got to look at it. And then they've got to get the final map and the package to me so I can do the, you know, the whole, you know, so the revised map is just the first step to getting the final map. So there's
Yeah.
like 2 more steps to go before we're even ready to, and so that, and they're working on everybody's right now. That's not just us.
Totally.
Can I ask if the process, they send us back the revised map, they say this will work. They have to decide if all of these changes will work.
Right.
If they say that, then we approve it in the rules committee and then we approve it at city council on the 20th.
Well, if they come back with that map and they said, okay, we can do pretty much we can do a lot of this. I mean, I'd probably, I've got to get the okay from you guys. Then I need to ask them to give me the final packet and the legal description. And that's what you vote on. So there's like a step, there's the okaying the map and then asking them to make the final map and the legal description. And then that's what you approve.
Well, I'm confused. If we, let's say we didn't make any changes and we approve this in rules tonight,
Yep.
it goes to the full council on 20th.
So if you tonight were to say, okay, we're going to live with this, I would send them a message tomorrow saying, send me the final packet of what I need.
Oh,
And then I would have to go through and double check the legal description and get it. So this is just like, take a look at it, make sure it looks good, and then request your final packet, because I don't have that right now.
so if we approve it next Thursday, say, then they come back with the final packet before the 20th. That's the problem. Will they come back in time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, whether you want to have a special meeting, I mean, I've got a, election coming up and it's a lot to do. So, I mean, I can try to reach out to them tomorrow, but this is a lot of changes, but I suppose we can ask.
Just ask. And if it turns out that it's absolutely impossible, then, I'm not crazy about the way that this all shook out, but it's nobody here's fault. And it just kind of is what it is. But I just feel bad not asking, because these are just things that have sort of nagged at me for a while.
I wish you had told me about this like a week ago, though, I mean,
I know I tried to swing by to visit you, but
I know, but we've had this for 2 weeks and that's the frustrating part, it would have been a lot better to have heard this like a week and a half ago.
yeah, fair enough. So I'm sorry for that. I really did mean to stop by last week to do that, to have this conversation, and it just, my
Well,
day job is.
Even then we needed to have this, so I'm just not sure it's going to be doable.
Dan, it's your hand.
2 things. One, Barb, would you ask them, the major question is, can they get it back? If we do the 14th, can they get it back before the 20th? If they can't do that, I'm not in favor of a special meeting. I don't feel comfortable with that. I'd like to hear from the other counselors. So that's the main thing, what they could do in what time. And if we're going to ask, we have to schedule that meeting tonight for the 14th, do we not? Because we either approve this map or the revised map.
Yeah, so let's just schedule that meeting for tonight, and then, because we're gonna have to approve something. And
Okay. So the 14th, if you approve it next week, I still got to get the final map from them.
Yeah.
I mean, it won't get in the council packet, and it's probably barely going to get to me by the 20th. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, I don't know if October 30th is what they're telling us, because they really want everybody to try for it. If it goes a little bit into November, I'm not.
that's my strong suspicion, but I want to be a team player.
It's probably going to be okay. So, I mean, I can try. That's.
Councilor Kwasinski, I see your hand.
Thank you. I think there's some real logic to using the natural boundaries. I see that logic. If it can be accomplished, I think folks will get used to the natural boundaries. It will become part and parcel of everybody's psyche, that the boundary, over to here, over to there. as opposed to some street division. There'll be fewer street divisions that in this whole map. If we could do it, I'd be willing to do a special meeting.
Oh, I'm hearing that November 3rd, or what is our first meeting in November? The 3rd?
Mhm.
I don't think that's gonna be, that's only 4 days late. I don't think they'll yell at us. And
Well,
I'd
Barb will
like,
find that out, right?
I mean, I doubt that they would. Now, I think we also have to consider that not everybody is here right now. I mean, the rest of the counselors, what are they gonna say? Are they gonna be like,
well, this makes a lot of logical sense. I think JP is right. I think the other counselors will be okay, but all we can do is try and see what happens.
I also think that I said last night in very, very specific terms, many, many times, if you care about this, show up at this meeting. So,
Well, they probably thought as I did that there weren't going to be any changes, Tom.
fair
right?
enough.
So that's my thought. If
I
they
don't
feel-
think you can make those assumptions at any time. Tom
No,
is very
you're right.
specific.
Yeah,
And I appreciate that, Tom.
Hey,
If they-
Peg,
if
can
they-
we
if-
have the meeting on the 14th? Is there any conflict?
yeah, we have a ranked choice voting meeting at 6.
Oh, no.
mean- I mean, whether that can go a little later or we can, I mean, I don't really know that we're doing anything critical that night. But it's,
Yeah, I mean, right. So, I mean, I guess we'd either have to meet on the later side, like 7 or earlier, like 5.
I'd love to do 5, but you
I'd
don't get
rather
home
do
for work.
five.
I'd rather do 5.
I can't-
Can you get
Okay,
home from work in time, Tom?
I
I'll have
cannot
to
do
work-
5.
What's that?
If anyone cares, I cannot do 5.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Well,
But you could certainly move forward without me, because I have no strong emotional attachment to the way the districts are set up. And so I understand that natural boundaries make sense. So I don't feel that I'm critical to whatever you got. You guys seem very passionate about this. So, if you want to meet at 5 and I can't be there, I don't think we're going to be missing out on a lot of intellectual capacity right there. If I'm not there, is all I'm saying.
Well, can you move the ranked choice voting to 7? You're in that.
Peg.
we probably could.
I could ask Dan. I'm sure he'd be fine.
That'd probably be fine.
Then why don't we do 6 o'clock next week? And the other thing I wanted to say, it's worth a shot because we only get to do this once every 10 years.
Yeah, that's my, if this was an annual or biannual thing, I would just be like, is what it is, whatever.
Right.
I just, who knows which of us will even be on the council in 10 years. So I think like,
I just hope I'm above ground.
I just hope I'm going to be able to reach them tomorrow and be able to explain this to them.
Well, if it's impossible, it's impossible, but it's worth the try.
Yeah, because if I don't get this to them tomorrow, I'm not even going to get it to them at all until Tuesday.
yeah.
And that's just not enough time.
And what I'll also do is, as soon as I get off here, I will hop on my organization's Zoom chat, and because I'm pretty sure we do all the technical support for this anyway, so I have a pretty good feeling if they come back with this request, it's going to go to like people who work down the hall from me. So maybe I could just be like, it's really important to me that you expedite this, guys. And
Yeah,
And they,
well, I'm going to give a call to John I'm going to send an email. I probably even give a call tomorrow. I'd rather just do it the same. I don't know how I'm going to explain it to them. I guess I need to.
Well, can you
talk-
draw
just-
it?
I can just
draw it?
talk it through probably, but
You don't have the ability to draw on a PDF, do you?
well, I could just take it and circle,
Yeah,
but I probably want to talk it with them just because
sure.
we
And
don't have,
I can try.
sorry, JP, what were you saying?
We don't have the ability to draw on a PDF?
Well, I could print it. Yes, I can do it.
Or,
mean,
I probably could draw on a PDF if.
No, that's a good idea. Just,
Wow, cool.
No,
I
I,
thought you needed like a CAD thing or something.
no, I'm
No,
just
you
gonna go
need-
into the
Yes, but-
office and just, I
I
mean,
have a,
it's easy enough to just
in
circle it.
Adobe, you can do that with just drawing a line.
guys,
So,
just Barbara, print it, draw the lines and rescan it.
Do whatever you need to do, Barb.
Yeah,
This is
I don't
your,
work
this
on
is your job.
Fridays. I don't work on Fridays, remember?
Right. I know.
fair enough. Barb, if it's helpful at all for me to be on any of those calls, just let me know and I can.
Okay, I mean, I think I understand what you're asking for, so. I
Okay.
have no idea if the numbers are gonna be even
Yeah.
vaguely workable.
Yeah, and if they're not, then, is
Okay.
what it is. I just figure it's worth asking.
All right, I'll try.
So we're meeting on the 14th for sure, because we have to approve something.
Yes, let's shoot for 6. I'll see if I can ask Dan to move the ranked choice voting meeting either forward or back.
Okay.
All right.
Are we done?
It sounds like we're all on the same page. So yeah, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, Counselor Rist,
Aye.
Counselor Coniff,
I.
I vote aye as well. Thanks, everybody. I will see you next week.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you for